Hey everybody, Bandicoot Commando here, and welcome back to Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Last time, I showed off all the treasures. Right here. I showed where you can get all the treasures in each chapter that had them, and yeah, it was quite a journey to do that. So today, I'm going to show off a lot of the bonus stuff through the gallery and so on and so forth. So first, I'm going to show off some stuff that you can do. So I'm going to go to chapter 2. Yeah, we'll just put it on easy. I don't know if this is going to fully override everything, but if it does, it doesn't matter. This is pretty much the last episode, and also you can see the date of when I'm recording this. I hope this doesn't fully erase all of my hard work, because if it does, then I have essentially screwed up. Well, I still have my treasures, and I still have my medals, which means, yes, I still have my rewards. Okay.
Hold on.
Just wait for Sully to stop talking while I
as young
pull
as I
open
used
a
to
few
be.
things.
Yeah, you weren't too old for that little barmaid in Lima, were you?
Ha! Well, that was different. Although I must admit, equally as strenuous.
Well, hang in there, old-timer. We're just about there.
You know, this reminds me. I ever tell you about the time I pawned a phony 16th century Santo off on Pablo Escobar? Risky move, but by the time he figured it out, I was... Nate, are you even listening to me?
Hanging on every word.
Why waste my breath?
Alright, so now that we got through that, once you beat the game on any difficulty, and also, if you have enough medal points, you can do some fun stuff. In-game, that is. There are some unique... These right here are unique. I'll explain those in a bit. And there's also one in here. So for costumes, you can select a few different costumes, provided you have enough medal points. Naughty Dog Drake you unlock once you beat the game on any difficulty. Wetsuit Drake, and these are when you have if you have enough medal points for them. I'm not going to go over how many medal points you need. So Naughty Dog Drake, as I turn it on, is Drake wearing this baseball shirt, as I'll call it, but he's got Naughty Dog's logo on it. Wetsuit Drake is obviously what it is. It is the wetsuit that he wore at the beginning of the game in Chapter 1. And what's unique about this suit that both he and Elena wear as an Easter egg, although it's covered by Drake's little pack there, the brand of the suit says Otzel, and on the shoulder is basically Daxter's face from Jak and Daxter. See? Nice reference to how Otzel is basically the name of what Daxter's turned into, and also just having his face. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It's weird having... Wait. Oh, it's just the sunlight. It's weird having two different Sullys on screen. It's like looking in a mirror, ain't it? And then... I don't remember what cartoon Drake looked like. Oh! Okay! Oh, Drake big. Drake strong. Drake big. Drake crush Sullivan and pigs. It's such a... I wonder if it changes his voice. So far, his voice doesn't sound different. Like, sometimes I think... Gotta wait for him to talk, and maybe he might have a different voice. No, his voice ain't different. The same goes if you change to the other ones, is where his voice won't exactly change. Elena is basically, yeah, you play as Elena. I think you play either, for her costume, it's either the one where she's wearing that blue shirt over her top, or it's just her wetsuit. I'm pretty sure it's her standard model. Donut Drake is if you can get all the medals, which is essentially platinum the game. But basically, Donut Drake is just Drake, but very obese and fat, and his voice is deepened to reflect on that. I'll turn that off. Baseball Shirt Drake is actually part of a cheat code. I can't exactly call it a cheat code, but if you were to hover over it, the game would say input special button sequence to unlock, and I will at least tell you how to unlock it. During gameplay, and when you're in this menu to select, I think it's either when you're in this selection or if you're on this selection, but be sure you put in, and you got to do it somewhat quick, left, right, down, up, triangle, R1, L1, square. And you'll hear a sound to confirm that you inputted the code correctly. And as I turn it on, it's the shirt that I showed earlier, but without the Naughty Dog symbol on it. This shirt of Drake's is important, but I'll talk about it just a bit later. So, costume select for villains is, again, it's pretty self-explanatory. You got your standard pirate enemy. Oh, I say standard, but this guy's actually unique, I believe, because he was actually in the cutscene with Eddie Raja before his death. And this guy does have a name, I believe. I think his name is like Plunksku? Punsku? I feel like I'm saying it wrong, but he's important. The mercenary. Just a standard mercenary. Oh, this guy's also important. This was the helicopter pilot guy, I believe, that at the end of the game. I believe his name is Javier. Eddie Raja. Yeah, no. Voices don't change. When you're in cutscenes, like FMV cutscenes, it won't render in the costumes you selected, obviously. And, yeah. And then Roman and Navarro, it's obvious on what you would see with them. Weapon select. You can choose any of the weapons, provided you have enough of the medal points for them. This can help you achieve certain medals and achievements with weapons. Like if you need to get this many kills with this particular weapon, or if you need, like with grenades or with the M79, if you want to try and get the Dynamite achievement or the Grenade Hangman achievement, or if you just need some powerful weapons to plow through. But be careful. If you try using these during a playthrough, especially on a difficulty that you haven't completed, when you beat the game and if you selected any of these weapons, or if you're using them, and the same goes to some of the other stuff here, it will not count. I tried doing both the weapon select and one of the options down here, and it did not count. It considered it cheating. Render mode, which you unlock, you could just change the render aspect, so black and white. Now everything is black and white. This actually does add a bit of challenge, because since everything is in black and white, it can make it a little harder to determine how close you are to death. But the sound of the heartbeat going off will kind of clue you in. Sepia, it's just similar to black and white, just not in black and white, just in a sepia tone. Similarly, it does make it a little tricky to know how close you are to death. Next gen. This is more of a joke render, because at the time when the PS3 was coming out, during the PS2 era, this kind of graphical mode was considered the next step in gen gaming, but as you could see, it's pretty fuzzy and just not exactly pleasing to look at. It looks a little pretty, but it's not fun to look at. These are just things you can unlock and see in the menu. Fast motion. It does exactly, wow, it goes a little faster than I think. Does that include dialogue? Will they speak faster? Wow. That didn't sound faster, but let's get through this cutscene and listen to the next one.
This is like trying to find a bride in a brothel.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't speed up dialogue. I thought it would, but no. Alright, let's turn that off. Mirror world. It'll mirror the game from left to right, as you can see there. Flip world. Flips left and right every time you die. So right now it's flip, but if I die, it would go back to normal, and it just keeps flipping every time you die. Slow motion. Pretty self-explanatory. Super slow motion. Even more. I don't think it slows down dialogue. Yeah, no, that didn't sound slow. I mean, it looks cool, but it's just a funny... I mean, if you want to try playing the whole game in fast mode or slow mode or super slow mode, then be my guest. Does it actually slow down dialogue, though?
This is more like it.
Naughty Dog, you weren't committed enough to do that. I wish you were, though. Right, let's disable that. Infinite ammo, once you unlock it, it does exactly what it is. You'll have infinite ammo on all your weapons. You still have to reload, though, when you empty a clip. The one-shot kills, again, one shot, instant kill. I don't know if it applies to yourself, as in if you get shot, you'll get killed, but I'm pretty sure it means it applies to the enemies and that you shoot them, they're dead. These are only unlocked through button sequences. To unlock this one, press these buttons in order. L2, right, up, square, left, triangle, R1, down. Then, for this one, press left, R2, right, up, L2, triangle, square, down. Then for this one, let's see, this one, as I scratch my foot, press L1, right, square, down, left, triangle, R1, whoops, R1, and then up. And then this one you unlock once you beat the game. Okay, well, now that we have that over and dealt with, let me go over medals real quick. Yeah, because I was redoing this on... I pretty much was redoing this on easy. I would have to re-unlock this one, but it's there. Let's see, this one, I had to look up what this is, but this is Expert Dynamite, and what it is that you kill 3 or more enemies with one explosion, but you have to do it like 5 times, really. So, luckily, anytime you do those, yeah, like these, kill 5 enemies in a row or stuff like that, it doesn't, it's not like it can, it's, what I'm trying to say is, it accumulates, meaning that it doesn't have to be done on one playthrough. Like, if you have to replay the game again to do it, and you've already killed like 3 or 4 groups of enemies with one explosion, then you just got to do it a few more times on a different playthrough to get the achievement. Grenade Hangman, yeah, that one's easy. Just kill 10 enemies. It's good to do that one if you have infinite ammo and you have grenades on you. This one I earned on my easy playthrough. And yeah, just you gotta kill 50 enemies without dying. Every time you die, it resets. And because I had some bad luck during my regular playthrough of the game, yeah. That is for the Desert Eagle, and that's when I was going through my easy mode thing to get through this easy. That's for crushing, and that's when I learned the hard way that if you try to use, you know, the infinite ammo and the weapon select things during a playthrough, it doesn't count for getting that, and I feel cheated because of that. Because I think in later games, they kind of tweak it. But that's enough of showing off the stuff that you can do during gameplay. Let's head back to the menu. Okay, give me just a sec before I show that stuff off. Let me just oh. There we go. Okay, so next, time to show the bonuses with the gallery. Story cutscenes are up here, which I showed. Bonus featurettes, again, I showed during when we beat the final chapter. Is just it shows the making of scenes. So, here's the concept galleries for each of the places. So, early Drake ideation. As you can see, you know, Drake underwent a few different subtle changes in development, but as you can see with with the way his face looks, he resembles a certain actor. A certain actor, as I'll put it. Also, you can see he's holding a sword in that one. There was an idea for Drake to use melee weapons. Another idea for poses, and again, his face looks awfully familiar. This was before they got Nolan North on board. Early Drake painting. Also, take note how he's wearing the baseball shirt. So here, we're pretty much at his final appearance. And yeah, this is his model without the textures and all that. And there's his final render. For Elena, got that, and there's her torso and her render. Notice how, even though it's kind of in a black and whitish, notice her hairstyle. And face render. And her final render, and again, notice her hair isn't exactly blondish. Here we got Sully. Head render. Some concept of the interior of the Hogwild plane. I really wish they kept that hog head. That would have worked so well. The interior of Sully's yacht after Chapter 1. Color scripts, which are just basically like how a setting should look with the colors. So the underwater section and the on the boat when they get Sir Francis's Drake coffin, and then the color scripts for when where am I looking? Oh, there it is. Anyway, for the interior of the plane and the beach port, and then the ruins of the jungle. Some concept of the Amazon ruins. And when Drake and Sully are on the trail to find El Dorado through the Amazon. Concept of the temple. Also, yeah, notice the artist's signatures as well. design for a temple statue. And more different ideas for temple statues. Outside Guardian statue, inside Watcher statue, and then the scary column statue. Stone cut. The temple brazier process, how it goes from a concept sketch storyboard to what it would look like modeled to what it would look like in the final, or at least parts of it that would look like in the final. The temple brazier room, and in this concept we see both Sully and Drake attacked by spiders, giant spiders. Luckily this concept wasn't used in the final game, probably because they thought it would be too early to introduce supernatural stuff. The calendar room, which is the big room where we, I think it's that one room where we had to go down. Another sketch of the calendar room. Them Incans really loved their calendars. More color scripts of the temple. The god rays. When the sunlight peeks out of those temples and hits the right images. The moon room, which is just that big hole that we had to go down. The sun room. This is the room I was actually thinking of. The moon room and the sun room I don't think actually made it in the game. Or wait, I think they did. We just had to blow up the wall for Sully to get in. The temple well, which we did that puzzle that involved pressing the switches. Hold that out. There we go. The water switch. The scaffolding room. Nice set piece that was. And the temple Dias? It's basically where El Dorado was supposed to be. And we're back here. The U-boat, different concepts that we're about to see involving the German U-boat. I mean, I don't find it that believable that a U-boat can be stuck in a place like that during flood season. The interior of the U-boat. Flares. This just means that at a point Drake was using a flare to see, but in the end he just used his standard flashlight. A crewman, probably the captain, as Nate would remark, ripped to shreds. The captain's room. A painting of Navarro. Another sketch painting of Navarro's head. And his render. Early concept of Gabriel Roman when he clearly was a younger mob boss. Another idea of Roman where this time he went from looking something a little bit out of the Godfather / South American mob boss to an Englishman. Here we can see, at least with on the left, Roman looks more like a movie director, if anything. And here we see close to finish of what Roman would be. An Englishman who is a crime lord boss of some kind. And there's his final appearance. His head render with the fedora. And yeah. The arrival to the island through Sully's plane. An idea where when the plane gets wrecked, you land it in a beach instead of in the middle of the jungle. The the jungle, and notice how Drake is using a machete to get by. The waterfall segment. At least that is almost exact how it is in the actual game. Well, minus the bit where you had to, like... Yeah, minus the additional bits where you had to climb on the truck. Like, see, that part actually matches what it is in the game. The misty ruins. Waterfall of the ruins. The drop-off. What a drop-off. The summit. A different sketch of the giant waterfall being a literal giant waterfall, but very pretty to look at. The shootout, or at least the idea of what shootouts would be in the game. And sneaking, which unfortunately, like I said, this game, the stealth segments in this game were not refined. Or at least not refined enough that stealth is just practically useless in this game. Some sketches of the terrain. And of the foliage of trees and bushes and whatnot. See? A study of how the terrain would be in the Amazon. Or at least on the island. The jungle and a silhouette of where Drake is supposed to be. More of the ruins. And more of the ruins. The fort. When you see the fort for the first time. That almost matches how it happens in the actual game. The courtyard of the forts, and you see how Eddie's pirates have set up shop quite well. Another concept of the courtyards with the trucks and everything. The tower. I believe it's meant to be the tower that you have to climb in to get the keys. The fort at dawn. The battlements. And you could see a cruise ship in the background, which that must have been Roman's, or that might have been Eddie Raja's. Seeing the fort from the beach side. The cliff side of the fort. I'm just gonna say this, in every... Oh, the tower where Elena's parachute is found. I just want to say how in almost every Uncharted game, there is a particular segment that is what I want to refer to as the big climb. Which is... Essentially, it's where there's a particular climbing segment, and it's like, wow, that's like the real highlight of the game with its climbing. More of the ruins of the fort. More ruins. Gunfights at the ruins. The shore break. Must have been an idea that at some point you'd go down to the beach side of the fort, but in the final game, luckily, there's no beach on that cliff side, just sheer rocks. The storm front, I'm guessing they call it that because that's where the tides crash in during a storm. Upshot. The wall repelling when you're using the vines to swing around and to break into the fort. The cistern. The fort cisterns, especially the blue room. Another idea of the cisterns. The prison break, with how Elena helps Drake get out of imprisonment. Some ideas of Eddie. Notice how very, I want to say, stereotypical Indonesian, Malaysian pirate he looks. And just different hairstyles he's got. And tattoos as well, lots of tattoos. Pretty much close to the final version of Eddie, he's just wearing some shades. some painting of Eddie's pirates, which are pretty much going to be these next art pieces, is just paintings and sketches of the pirate enemies. Man, it must be, I don't want to say it must be easy, but it must be easy if you're given the task to design enemies in a game. Especially if you're designing human soldiers or whatever. All you do is just, you draw a particular suit and outfit, and then you just copy and paste it, and just make minor alterations to make, you know, variations of them. Pretty much close to how some of the pirates look and act in the final game. The clothing key, and this is what I was talking about, how it's kind of easy to make enemies when you use a model. You just make a few models, make some variations to those models, but then you just change the clothing and setup. It's like how they did it with BioShock with the splicers. Use different models, but you can always assign them into being either melee enemies or shooters or whatever. The chase sequence on when Drake and Elena are escaping on the Jeep from the fort. The cliff segment. I also learned during the chase, during my hard playthrough, that if you get to certain points, sometimes the dirt bikers and I think the Jeep drivers may accidentally crash into trees or whatever to kill themselves if you don't kill them in a set amount of time. The progression, how it goes from dense jungle, cliffside, and briefly in a cave. The split road part. The truck. Which brings the crash to the bridge. They didn't exactly crash, but they were cornered though. The flooded ruins. Take note how the ruins are also underwater. The cathedral of the ruins. The customs house. The lagoon, like I said. Notice how the water is a big theme here, and how some buildings are partially underwater. The various towers and buildings that just jut out from the water. Town Hall. A sunken building. This tells me that there was a point, because of these next few sketches, there was a point where Drake and Elena had to go underwater for some reason or another. Whenever they actually had their diving suits with them or not. So yeah, these are just different sketches of what the ruins look like underwater. Luckily it never came to be because there's really no reason on why to go underwater in these ruins. There's just no reason. But like I said, I think this might have been part of a story where they had to go underwater for something, but they cut it out because they knew that rendering it was going to be challenging. Which is why they only saved that underwater portion for the beginning of the game for a cutscene when they retrieved the coffin and when Navarro was drowning underwater. Finally, we're out from the water. More towers and the shore. Customs house at the main foyer. Wait, hold on, let me go back. Notice that skeleton that clearly is probably meant to be a horse. Sorry about that. The rotunda, I think is how you say it. It's just a big round place. The bridge, especially the bridge where Elena loses her camera. Just a closer look at that bridge sketch. The river, when they have to go upriver to the monastery. The bullet chase. Technically not a chase if you're able to fire back at them. Just different sketches of the river, going upriver. The time of day being at dusk. A fallen tree, which I don't think there's never a point where you have to go under a tree. We're getting there. So, part 5, sneaking through the monastery ruins. Notice how Elena in that sketch has brunette hair and she looks a little Hispanic, to say at least. The catacombs. The entrance to the monastery. The cloister. Oh, I called them courtyards, but cloister would be the proper term for at a monastery at least. Different color sketches for the outside and interior sections of the monastery. Okay, that's a courtyard at least. The church altar. Another design of the church altar. The treasure vault. Like Drake said, in a really elaborate way to hide the damn treasure, that's for sure. Just different ideas of how the treasure vault should look. How the lighting should look. They got the lighting right at least. Sir Francis Drake's body. And how his body looks in the game. So, concept of the Descendants, or as it says there in the actual sketch, Mutant Experimentation, version 1.09. The armor that the Descendants wear. Very tribal and primitive. Wait a sec. Yeah, notice how their feet look. Especially in this, just how big and grotesque they're. Just how they look. Body study. Thank God that guy does not have a crotch. Part of the reasons the Descendants are so mutated is not just because of the curse within this El Dorado statue, but it has to do with years of interbreeding as well. Inbreeding between the Descendants created some mutations, which is why they look the way they look now. See? That almost looks pretty much as close as to the final as it'll get. Different ideas for the head and face. Very Gollum. Very Smeagol Gollum looking. The muscle study. Pretty much a final image of the Descendants. Another sketch. That's also why they're called the Descendants, because they are descended from the Spanish and German troops that got infected by the El Dorado curse and the years of inbreeding. The design of the various totems and effigies that you find of the Descendants. This won't be the last time Naughty Dog made very grotesque, scary, mutant-looking enemies. And the final concepts. The facility's control room. A corridor within the facility. The German bunker, I should say. Various sketches of the facility. And I'm assuming pods that would have held the Descendants. It's possible that the Germans were trying to really experiment with them and figure out how to use them as a weapon. The piping, the pipelines, just the various corridors and whatnot. The U-boat just half sunk. That pretty much looks what it would in the final, to a degree. Notice the El Dorado statue there. That's probably where it would have been before it was moved elsewhere. Yeah, until it was moved to the lair of the descendants. There it is. The lair, the treasure, the wide shot of it. Yep, there it is. El Goddamn Dorado. The process of how it came to be when making it. The El Dorado statue is a sarcophagus. Different details and sketches of how it should look. They kept the face the same, though. Within the interior of the sarcophagi, the mummified corpse, with that headdress that he's wearing, he must have been an Incan priest of some kind, or even an Incan emperor. But if that's not the case, close-up of it, the Incans knew mummification. The Egyptians weren't the only ones who pulled it off. The hands, and finally the sketch on the cargo ship that leads to the final battle. Bonus concepts 1 and 2 are, as I said, through button sequences. The color keys, which are basically what the art palette should be on each of the levels. Some more sketches of the customs house. The temple, the braziers that hanging brazier design 1 and 2. These tracks along the ceiling are how the fire gets from the floor braziers to these hanging braziers. All patterns are cut out except this bottom piece where they are engraved. CZ big. Oh, big. Big is important. Big concept art. Amazon El Dorado Spider Room to get a better idea of the effect we are going for. More designs of the temple. Glad they never went with the spiders, but they would come back to that later. The pillar room, where Drake would have to shoot the barrels to destroy a pillar to make a bridge. The scaffolding. It's not the scaffolding room, though. More details on the walls and the pillars. The dock, where Sully's plane and yacht are. The process of making it. Yep, there it is. Nice, picturesque village seaside resort, as I would call it. Paint over cistern. You see how the game kind of renders. Paint over fort cover. Again, you see how the paint over process goes to the final render. The vine when you break into the fort. The jungle intro. I honestly like the paint version. Or at least the bottom version. Well, the bottom version is from a trailer. The jungle run. Different ideas of the traps. Or at least these traps. The double version was used. And a trap that I am thankful that they did not use. Trap surface covered with dirt and leaves. Trap underlying structure. Trap triggered. And other than spikes being there, there are flesh-eating beetles, it says. What do you want, Mom? I'm in the middle of recording. So unless you want to be part of this recording of the finale and hear me blabble about these concepts and such, I don't know, maybe another 20-30 minutes. It's gonna be a while. Ugh. These next few pieces of art are actually from when these are promotional images from the game. This is just a close-up of it. So these were on, like, you know, gaming news articles and gaming news magazines, just strictly for promotional reasons. And this was during, like, the year of, like, 2005, 2006, and maybe early 2007 before it came out. Just an image of Drake for promotional reasons. Drake's face model appearance. Elena, this time they have her hair rendered correctly. Sully. Eddie Raja. Navarro. Roman. These are just renders of the model of the pirates and enemies that we encounter throughout the game. So now you can get a better look at them and see what they're wearing, all the other little details like the tattoos and all that little stuff like that. But like I said, you can always tweak the model, but you can always change the outfit. Man, it must feel bad for the pirates that don't wear clothing when they get shot up. These pirates, at least, the big guys and the guy in the red shirt, they're the ones that carry the shotguns and the M79s. Angelo? I think Angelo is the one pirate model that I had in game. The African pirate. And then, oh, yep, the shotgun pirate guy, the fat guys. And lastly, when you unlock this one once you beat the game on any difficulty. This is just basically a lot of Naughty Dog behind the scenes and such. Like, this was probably a promotional image reason. And that is, well, that was probably Naughty Dog's studio back then. I don't know if it's still like that now. But look at that, a nice rainbow. Naughty Dog. The nice hallways of Naughty Dogs. Notice that Jack 3 poster they got there. This had to have been taken around, like I said, 2005, 2006, maybe even 2004. The artists. This is where the artists work. Some head sculptures when they do their modeling. If you know some of the Naughty Dog cast members, well, I say cast, but the crew, you might recognize a few of them. I know a few faces, but not all of them. Different part of the hallway and an early poster of Uncharted in the background there. I think that guy in the black, that might be Neil Druckmann? I'm not too sure, though. A nice statue of Jak and Daxter during the days of Jak 2. And also some more little statues for Uncharted. Probably when they were having their spot set up at the E3 of 2006. Again, it's where the artists hang out. You can see all the concept art we went through displayed on the walls. More of the crew just doing their job. This is where the programmers work. Wait a sec, hold on. Oh, I thought on one of those desks I saw like a PlayStation, like an original PlayStation. So, I don't know how programming works, but clearly this is how it works. You just try to make sure everything looks right and just have your co-workers point out what might need to be tweaked. They got one of those FLG models up there. This is in black and white. Some of these photos are in like black and white as well. And that's pretty much it. And there's that Jak 3 poster again. Woof! That is their dog mascot. He's, what is he, Mom? Some kind of French bulldog. He looks like a puggy, though. He's got the pug look. I don't know if this little guy is still alive or not, but since he's a little dog, and we know rat dogs can live for quite a while. And this is just them going over... Yeah, these guys, they're either programmers or testers, because on that main TV monitor, they have the debug information up there with all that programming jargon that I do and do not know. Different skull models. There's that art room again. The break room, the lunch room. The guys are enjoying a nice game of foosball. And you can see that poster of Jak 2 on the wall. And they got a PS3 display behind them as well. Must have been a good game of foosball for them. Be sure to when you take breaks, be sure to stretch and stay hydrated. And there's also a Jak 3 poster in the background. See, black and white photo. This is them outside during lunch break. A dodgeball game between some of the Naughty Dog crew members and the Sony Santa Monica members as well. This was probably when Sony Santa Monica was developing God of War 2, maybe God of War 3, who knows. I don't know who won this game of dodgeball, but I hope it was the Naughty Dogs. That, I believe, may be Nolan North. I'm not sure if that's him or not, but I'm going to assume that's him. This. I was actually talking to my mom about this when we were going out to take care of some business, but Stephen White, who was given a special thanks in the credit sequence, was given this as a reward. I'm assuming this was for his work at Naughty Dog, but as you could see, he did the games with the game disc. He did Crash Bandicoot 2, Crash Bandicoot 3, and Crash Tag Team Racing. Then he did Jak Daxter, Jak 2, and Jak 3. He did Combat Racing, even though it's kind of blurred out on the photo. And Uncharted is on there, but it's using a different disc design. This is the tech team. This is where their supercomputers are when it comes to rendering and all of that. It's probably very hot in there considering how supercomputers are. The concept artist crew. And that guy has a model of a male human for reference, and thankfully his naughty bits are censored with that Naughty Dog print. The design team, with a nice Crash Bandicoot 2 poster in the background. The design team during just a process of how they should work a certain area, with one of them on the phone telling them. I can't read all that stuff on their blackboard, their whiteboard, but I can read one part saying, can hear descendants early on by land, but I can't, I'd have to look up closer to see all the other stuff. The environment artist, look at them. The prop artists, props to these guys for making such a wonderful game. The cinematics team, the character team, the gameplay animators, the programmers, the sound design people, the quality assurance people, and they got a nice picture of Crash, the guy in the Crash Bandicoot outfit up there. This is the motion capture studio. This is where all the magic happens when they're animating cutscenes. Or in this case, they're getting motion capture reference of how Drake melees his enemies, because the one in blue is Nolan North, while the guy in gold is just someone as a stand-in to represent an enemy. Emily Rose and Nolan North ready to do the Jeep scene. This is a setup for the seaplane. Nolan North and Emily Rose with the goofy motion capture outfits. And there's them. There's the cast. Nolan is in the pink one. Emily is in the red one. Richard McGonagall, who does Sully, is in the dark blue. The one on Nolan, on the left of Nolan, is James C., who does Eddie Raja. And on the right of them, I believe that is either Simon Templeman, who does Roman, or that could be Rowan Akin Downs, who does Navarro. Just some bloopers with the camera set up. Some in-game bloopers with rendering issues. Not all games are... Ooh, I've been impaled! Not all games are perfect. You gotta go through the trial and error to make sure they look right in the end. With this room that Drake is in, this is a test room to help Drake with combat. Okay, that should have stayed. That's accurate for enemies. You gotta make your enemies look weird and scary. And the last in-game blooper. And that is pretty much all the bonus content I can show off. Now I need to get through the part where I talk just a bit about the game's development. So, when it came to developing Uncharted, at the time when Naughty Dog completed Jak 3, they were ready to move on to the next big thing. So, they assembled their most talented their most technically talented staff, and they began development of Uncharted, which was under the code name Big. At a moment, there was a part where Naughty Dog was also trying to develop a Jak and Daxter game on the PS3. But they realized that this was difficult because with their team split like this, it was a choice of, do we work on this new IP or do we try to focus on Jak and Daxter? And after some time, they realized we need all hands on deck, so they abandoned the Jak and Daxter concept, which would later get an interesting story of its own, and they focused on Uncharted. Uncharted was pretty much inspired by a lot of things: Indiana Jones, National Treasure, Tomb Raider. So, when the game was unveiled at E3 of 2006, you've noticed when I was playing as baseball shirt Drake, that was pretty much Drake's appearance with that red and white shirt. I also believe that for a majority of that game, that was what Drake was wearing until they decided to switch it to the outfit that he's wearing now. Now, when it came to the design of things, and when I say the design of things, when it comes to Nolan North, or should I say Nathan Drake himself, hold on, it's here somewhere. Where are you? There you are. So, when it came to Nathan Drake's appearance, the thing is, when he was first being conceived and made, the earliest idea they had with it, with the several sources they had, most of Drake's appearance, and especially in the concept art with his face, were actually based on Johnny Knoxville, which gives me a feeling that maybe at one point they considered getting Johnny Knoxville to do the voice. And considering what Johnny can do, being the daredevil he is, I wouldn't be surprised if he would love to do motion capture. They also got some inspiration from other actors like Harrison Ford and Bruce Willis, and even Cary Grant. When it came to voices, Nolan North was pretty much the only choice they had in mind. And I believe Nolan... What did Nolan say? Well, maybe not Nolan. Neil Druckmann explained a part about Drake when it came to reacting to situations that the average person might. we knew that in order to pull it off, we had to have a hero who was completely relatable. Just a regular guy. So when people saw him and say, why do I play a guy in a t-shirt and jeans? He's just a guy. He's just like you and me. He's just like anyone else, and he'd probably react like anyone else in the situations that he's in. Drake's, or should I say Nathan, because that's his full name, Nate's name was actually interesting. Before they went with Nathan, the other names that they had in mind was anywhere from Ethan, Samuel, and John. Matthew was also another, and it was also very close, but nobody really liked the name Matthew. They eventually went with Nathan just because it can be shortened to Nate. And also, the name Nathan sounded very historical. But I'm not too sure about that part. The other thing that's interesting, and I actually wanted to make note of this during the game, but when when you get shot at in the game, you're not actually getting shot at all. When everything goes black and white and the red effect on the screen, that's actually Drake's luck. So that when he finally gets shot, that's finally his luck running out, dodging bullets. And the same goes to being affected by explosions. When it came to Elena, since Elena is another important part of the story, Elena was originally brunette, and early on, this was before they got Emily Rose, I believe, on board. This was, like I said, before they got Emily Rose on board. Elena was brunette, and she was meant to have been Hispanic. She originally went by the name Elena Vargas, and while it certainly was nice, they eventually just decided to change it up a bit is all. So, when the first game was close to release, in one early trailer, I think the E3 trailer, you can see an in-game image of Elena with brunette hair. And that's when they just decided to change it blonde, not only just to match Emily Rose, but it really didn't change anything. Well, it was also because the pixel shaders improved, and it looked better than what it did as brown. Change was purely cosmetic, wasn't meant to change her personality or anything. Let's see. What else is there that I have to make note of? Elena. Let's see, there was Elena. I talked about Baseball Drake. Yeah, Baseball Drake was some of those images. That was strictly from the E3 trailer of 2006. Trying to figure out if there's really anything else I need to share, because I feel like I do, but I'm just missing something. Well, if there's one thing when it came to game design, let's see, Richard Lamarchad, I think that's how you say his name. He was the lead designer, but it was co-designed by Hirokazu Yashuera, who is a former Sega game designer, and he was actually known for designing the early Sonic games. That's very interesting, ain't it? What's also interesting is how the game, when the demo came out, the game was actually strictly region-locked in America. It was region-locked, but it was a mistake because they actually were unaware that people from different regions could sign up on a North American account and download the demo. So that's when a region-free demo was released later on. What else is there? I already talked about the trophy integration. And then there's PlayStation Home, but I'm not going to talk about the PlayStation Home bit. I think. Oh well, there's a few other little things I could talk about. When it comes to the game's cover, I mean, you know what the American cover looks like. Here's the European cover. I don't know what's with you people in Europe that get different, unique designs to games. So that's the European cover. This is the Japanese cover, and it's interesting because of how it removes a majority of the background stuff that was in the other images. Because at least in the... get that out of there. Because at least in the American and European cover, they at least keep the... They keep Sir Francis Drake's ring and the skull, but here on this cover, they just simply replace all the violence. And speaking of that, that's another thing. In the Japanese version, enemies do not shoot out blood when you shoot them, so it is a bit censored in Japan, but that's usually par of the course of how some games work in other regions as well. Other than that, I think that is pretty much it. That is all I can share about Uncharted Drake's Fortune, and that will do. I hope you all enjoyed the Uncharted Drake's Fortune playthrough. I myself, it was a struggle, but I was able to pull it off, and really what makes it better was I went through, well, not so much as hell, but I went through a lot of effort just to get the hard trophy, medal that is, just to get enough medal points to show off stuff. I was going to try and go for crushing, but I was running out of time, so I figured it was best to just do what I can, but I might be able to try this again some other time. Oh, one last thing I'd like to mention and share. The Uncharted movie with Tom Holland in it. What's funny is when I was starting this game and doing the Let's Play, I had completely forgotten that the Uncharted movie was a thing, but I didn't know it wasn't going to come out in February. And by the time I started, I'm pretty sure when I started, it was pretty much on release week. If not on release week, it was like another week away till it came out. Like, let me check real quick. Let me just check again to make sure. Okay, well, I gotta go to... There we go. I will just say this, when it came to doing Uncharted, with especially with the movie coming out, Part 1... Oh yeah, it was on release week. It was definitely on release week. I will say, it was completely coincidental, wasn't deliberate in any way for promotion. It is funny and ironic, that is. I will say with my thoughts on the movie, it's not exactly like the game, well, the first game here. It doesn't really take any storyline from the first game, really, save for maybe the credits sequence, but it's basically a combination of Uncharted 3 and 4 with story elements. Overall, it is okay. Like, that's just the problem with it. It's very average and okay. And I'm not sure how I feel about Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg playing as Nate and I almost said Nate and Drake. Sorry. I meant to say Nate and Sully, but perhaps when they make a sequel, we'll see for sure how it pulls out. So, that will do for Uncharted Drake's Fortune. As for my next game, it's just going to be on the PS3. So, that is it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Hey everybody, Bandicoot Commando here, and I just wanted to say, there was something I forgot to mention in regards to, two things I forgot to mention in regards to when I was doing all that. The first involves the strange relic. Obviously, we know what it is. It's a precursor orb from the Jak and Daxter games. If you were to translate the precursor language on the orb, it would roughly translate into Naughty Dog Madman, just to refer to, you know, fanatics, Naughty Dog fans, and whatnot. The second thing has to do with the nature of El Dorado. Specifically, if it's actually a curse or not. Because within the El Dorado sarcophagus is a mummified corpse. The game doesn't exactly clarify what it is. No, Evan Wells, currently as of now the president of Naughty Dog, but back then, during Uncharted's development, he was the co-president, but still, Evan Wells would clarify and explain that mystical elements do not necessarily have a supernatural explanation, and that the idea was that there was a virus trapped inside the sarcophagus mummy. So basically, it's just some kind of unknown virus, bacteria, whatever, that causes the descendants and the mutation and whatnot. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to state and clarified. So, enjoy the end slate, and I'll see you in the next one.